For those of you who don't know, my name is Matt Koss. I'm the worship and media director here at CityGate, and I've been aligned with Clay and NEI commissioned about 5 years ago now, and then my wife and I have been serving here at CityGate with Dan and Vicky Billman, Thomas and Kathy Lestrito, the elders here, and for about 12 years now. And so I do some teaching as well in the house and carry a lot of responsibility. As you guys can tell, I run around and do a lot for Clay, from techie stuff, music stuff, fixing stuff, making sure things are running. So, but it's my privilege and honor to introduce, I'd like to say, our very own, but I don't know. You've been here long enough. I feel like you're our very own.
I'm starting to take root.
You're starting to feel that way?
Yeah.
Well, we like having you around. He's done some workshops here before. And but Jim Bryson. Now I think maybe we should start off with a Q&A here.
Sure.
I got a couple questions because your new book here, let me see it.
New book. Yeah.
Who Shot Your Tail Off? And I would say if anyone's going to come up with that title, it's going to be Jim Bryson. Now on here, it's a writer's guide to passion, purpose, production, and staying alive.
Yes.
Maybe you could speak, and maybe you'll do it during the session, but maybe you could speak to the staying alive part for a moment. What does that mean in your title of your book?
Ooh, it means, what a great way to start. It means all the nights I finish the evening with too much bourbon and a couple of Klonopin. And the mornings that I woke up realizing that I had been fighting for breath all night, and I shouldn't have woke up. Staying alive. Yeah, don't do that anymore. But many writers succumb to that, and it kills them, or it kills their artistry. And the thing is, substance abuse, from a male perspective, it's a mistress, isn't it? It's great in the beginning. Not that my wife's here. No, here. I read about it. But it's supposedly, reportedly great in the beginning and opens up all new doors and vistas, and then it slowly kills you. And that's what substance writing, the pursuit of the creative, because to be creative is to look at what everyone else looks at, but see what no one else sees, okay? Now, when you begin to see what no one else sees, you become, you create a world of your own and you become the god of that world because you're the only one there, And that becomes very convenient for mitigating other aspects of your nature, which some are better than others. So it becomes a self-replicating, destructive do loop. And so I wanted to touch on, there's a section in the book where I list all these very famous authors that most people have heard of. But then I say every one of them succumbed to some sort of substance. Well, Stephen King, which I realize you probably shouldn't bring up even his name in church, or we invite the occult here. Now, he's actually an excellent writer and a very good teacher, and his family had to stage an intervention, and he got clean. So that's where it comes from.
Wow.
Yep.
Now you wrote a book about Clay's life, Apostle Clay's life, called The Real Deal.
Yeah.
I want to ask, if you don't know, there's a book that Jim Bryson wrote about Clay's life called The Real Deal, and it tracks through all of these wild stories.
The life, death, and resurrection of Robert Claiborne Nash.
Yep. Now, I want to ask you, what was the most challenging or surprising part of writing that story?
Challenging and surprising, two different things. Challenging, there were many challenges to it. One was avoid the temptation to just run away with fantasy, okay? To make an interesting story even more interesting, to lie. And there was that temptation, but on the other hand, Clay's stories are so colorful They're vivid and they're well detailed. They're well fleshed out that I didn't have to do that. If I could tell you, the way he's been telling me stories about his life for as long as I've known him. I think I've known him probably 20 years now. And, we always used to saying, these stories are true mostly, which is about as good a deal you're going to get anywhere, trust me. But so I finally said, Clay, I'm going to write the story of your life. And so we have an engineering, I'm a retired engineer. We have in engineering what's called a CAD paper, okay, or a CAD machine, computer-aided drawing. It's about 4 feet, I see some heads and all, it's about 4 feet wide, and then they cut it off in about 5-foot sections, but it comes on a roll of like 500 feet. And when everybody else goes home, you press the button and that roll just comes out until you stop. So I took two 25-foot sections of CAD paper, each about 4 foot, like the scrolls in Revelation or something. I was one of the 7 angels. So we got 2 of those, and Clay and Susan came over to our house, Jacqueline and I. And I rolled these out. I took a pen. And I said, "All right, Clay. What I wanted to do was draw a timeline of his life, and then I already knew many of the stories. But I said, when did this happen? When did that happen? Put everything in relation." And I said, "I don't want to know when you were born. I want to know when your parents were born, how they met, when you were the gleam in your daddy's eye, when you were the pride of your mama, and all this stuff." And we did. And then I asked him some questions. Again, I'm in church. I can't say this, but so I won't. But we got it all. We got it all. And then from there I could write it. So that probably the challenge was getting it straight. But also some of it was complex. Near the end, where he talks about the truck accident. Okay, that's a multi-level story. It takes place in different times. And if I didn't get it right, you wouldn't get the gist of it. Okay. It was probably the most enjoyable thing I think I've ever written.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
It was a blast.
Well, if anyone knows Apostle Clay well, they know that getting details from him is very difficult. But timeline.
I can't get the guy to shut up. What are you talking about?
He remembers so intricately dates and details of stories. So it's
photographic memory.
Yeah, and so yeah.
So he says.
So when you're like, I'm trying to get all these details from him, that makes sense that he could, bam, rattle off all that stuff. But when I'm trying to get details about like a project or a planning something, it's like not going to happen.
Right. You got to get him on his favorite subject.
Yeah, you got to let him tell stories. You got to let the man tell stories, which he does well, and you do as well. And I'm looking forward to reading your book and for you to talk about it and teach this workshop. And so without further ado, a few more have trickled in. Right. And thank you, everyone, for joining us online. And I'll hand it over to Jim Bryson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Hey, hi. All right, I haven't done anything yet. Wait till I do something right. All right. I'd like to open up in prayer, and then I would like to hear from you guys, because I want to know why you're here. So let's open up in prayer. Father, I open hearts, I open minds, spirits, and I call forth all that you would have us do today, all that you wish we would know, all that you see in potential lying, fallow ground, unanswered calls, unanswered stories, embryonic writing, waiting to form, reach full term, and come forth, breath, life, spirit of its own. I speak these into these hearers. I speak these things into the lives of the very legacy of the lives represented here. And I declare peace on earth, goodwill to all mankind. Glory to God in the highest. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace to all mankind. Let it come forth, Father, in Jesus' name. Let it come forth. Let it come forth. I'd like to know who I'm talking to. Some of you people I know, but I think in terms of general categories here, who is an established writer? You're an established writer, yeah. Who else? Didn't we connect a long time ago? Harley Davidson or something? Yeah, I remember that. We went our separate ways by mutual, well, irreconcilable similarities. I think is one. Who else is a? Yeah. What do you write? My wife's got somebody's got a mic.
Mostly prophetic.
Prophetic stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right. Who's somewhere in the midst of writing? Late at night, 3 a.m. in the morning. Do I want a cup of coffee? From my left to right, what are you working on? Hey, tell you what, let's get a mic going here. So, the magic of audio animatronics here. We can't sell advertising without. All right, so just a couple of words. What are you working on?
It's like a supernatural story based on the story of Joseph and the 7 spirits of God.
In the sense of what?
7 spirits of God.
Okay, cool. Coming across. Who's next?
Hey,
Hey, bud.
it's it would be an autobiography and be my testimony, my story of where God's brought me from to where I'm at now.
Does it involve the brace?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I hear you. How far along are you in it?
Well, I have all of my testimony, like I had the basics of it, where I've hit and miss, where I've shared it publicly.
Right.
So I've got somewhat of a timeline. I'm just going back trying to make sure I add the details, praying, for the Lord to give me the details and kind of separate it out so I know where to add to and take away from and.
Okay. Thanks.
It's not a narrative or a directed writing. It's more a vision combined with a curriculum for what that vision entails. I was a history major in college, so I'm a historical base. I write about everything. I've got notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks, things the Holy Spirit gives me, etc. I'm trying to figure out why I'm here with you as well. Is the best way that you record and collate and draw things to put them together, because there's so much scattered. But it's more of an education platform for the future generations.
Okay.
More maybe so for the underground type thing. Like I said, it goes along with my vision, and it's broad and from years and years and years and years of writing, as well as things that I have.
So he's identified something of. He's already got a concept of who his audience is, so he knows what the end product would look like. All right, who's next?
I guess I am. I've got a book.
Are you with him?
Yes.
Oh,
and he didn't raise
there's
his
a
hand.
saga right there, isn't it?
know.
It's like my life, the zenith, rising up from the ashes. No.
I don't know what all that's about, but he did not raise his hand that he is already a published author, so I don't know why he didn't do that. That's unlike him. But anyway, established. Oh, true. Established versus published, so that confused him.
Okay.
As far as that goes.
Okay. All right.
I'm writing a book on the myth conceptions of being selfish.
I like it. Who wrote The Virtue of Selfishness? It'll come to me. A protege of Ayn Rand. It'll come to me. Somebody look it up. But yeah, it's a great book. The Virtue of Selfishness. Yeah.
So I am a published author, but not an established author.
What's the difference?
I don't know. Well, I published through a boutique publisher in Dublin, Ireland, and so my books are not even available in the U.S. on Amazon or wherever.
I think
so
the
I write.
DEA stopped them at the border and sent them back.
Well,
they're too inflammatory.
He didn't help me in that process. So that was unfortunate. But I write proverbs, and I write children's literature, and I'm excited about writing some nonfiction as well.
Okay, good. So, first of all, see some ground rules. It's about 2:15. I can easily go 2 hours. That doesn't mean you have to go 2 hours, or that I even will go 2 hours. So what I want to try to do is cover what is of interest to you, which hopefully is where your needs are. And I'll give you your menu options here in just a second. But anybody got to get up at any time, go. Or if anybody has a question at any time, I'm begging you, ask. Because left to my own devices, Jacqueline will tell you this, I will talk nonstop. I will tell story after story after story, and it's fun for a while. and then I want your eyes glazed over. So I want this to be relevant to you. Now, I had an idea. All right, here we go. Most people have phones, right? Yeah, wow. 240-818-8045. Text me your questions as we go, okay? And at a certain point, I'll stop, or I'll give the phone. Why don't I do that? I'll give the phone to Jacqueline here. Where's my phone? Right here. Here, Jacqueline. And then as questions develop, and then we'll take a break, and she'll pick through. She'll filter out all the outlandish, salacious comments and find something worth addressing. Okay, so now your menu choices. So I will be teaching out of the book. I'm not here to promote the book necessarily. I think it's a great book, or I wouldn't be promoting it. But I wrote the book because I've taught for many, many years, and I wanted to kind of encapsulate it. I'm 69, I'll be 70 soon, and I can just feel the motor, go, kind of, those signs at little towns that say no diesel braking or something, no Jake brakes, and everybody does it anyway, and I can feel mine going off. So it's very comprehensive, but it's not your typical writing book. I'm sorry? It's not your typical writing book in that it's not a lot of how-to. I'm not going to, I talk about it later in the book. What interests me and where I typically take a writer in the beginning of our collaboration is deep into their motives, okay? But they don't know I'm doing that. Because if they did, they'd go, oh, you see me in my nightgown. Yeah, lady, I don't want to see you in a nightgown. But I do want to know why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah, we live in a funny society where people are judged. We've weaponized judging so that then we can dispatch punishment as a form of power. But we deal with what people say, what people do, even what people look like, and not why. Why did you say it? Why did you do it? Because the why takes you into the person, okay? Because, see, the answer to, let's just do the writing. Let's see, the answer to what did you write is pretty simple. Well, it starts here with a capital letter, it ends here with a period, and a bunch of blood and mayhem, and a few mountains and streams happen in the middle. Okay, that's the what. The why requires a little more, okay? It requires a little more insight. And it kind of negates judgment, all right? Because go deep enough into anyone's motives, and you're going to find nothing new under the sun, okay? We all love, we all hate. We all yearn, we all pine, we all dream, we all cry in despair. We all have pain, we all have healing. We're all human. Yeah. Especially the saved ones. Because Jesus, and I'm going to steer this a little more to Christianity since I'm assuming that's the body I have here. In the beginning of the book, I say, this is not a book about Christian writing. It's a book about writing by a Christian. And there's a difference. And I think, so I want to make one point clear. We weren't saved out of our humanity. We were saved to become the full humans that God created us to be. And this is important because your theology has a lot to do with your creativity. And when I say creativity, I don't necessarily mean nonfiction. Creativity is important in all forms of written communication, all right? I hear people talk a lot about die to self, die to self, die to self. And the only thing I want to die is that teaching. It's well-intentioned, but it's wrong, and it it leads to bad things, all right? The wages of sin are death. I waded into this pool. How am I going to wade out of this pool? Jesus didn't give his life to kill us, to kill ourselves. I killed that self. He came to bring it to life. And the thing about ourselves is each one of us is unique, just like everyone else. We live in a society that is obsessed with identity in the name of diversity. And God bless diversity. If you've ever taken a walk in Crested Butte, Colorado in July and seen the wildflowers or the aspen forest, you're going to understand the heart of God, who doesn't do anything the same, even identical twins, which I'm told. All right, so what are we back to? The divisions that are dividing us along the lines of identity politics are a corruption of what is really the cool thing about humanity. Every one of us is different. Line up 5 cis white males, and you're going to get 15 identities. Tell a story, you're going to get 3 interpretations back. What I like to envision is, let's say you've got a body of people in a congregation, and the Spirit of God just breathes, 5 people are going to say, oh, I need to write mom. 10 people are going to say, I need to start a feeding program for the homeless. A guy like me is going to say, man, I got to get on my motorcycle when I get out of here. We are going to react to the same energy differently. The common denominator is the Spirit of God. The differentiator is who we are, okay? Now, who we are is important, which is why when you hear death to self, death to self, death to self, yeah, who are you killing? It's you. Don't do it. Now, what the people mean, and I'll just cover this, and then I'm going to leave it alone. They're talking about the flesh, right? Obviously, we have a corrupt part of us. That's why we need Christ, okay? But the flesh is the corrupted part. It's not who we are. Something to look at in your theology, and it affects creativity. Do I want to go here? Yeah, I do. It affects creativity. As a writer, you will run into this if you take it seriously. It's the idea that we are born with a fallen nature. Now, I know some people are going to disagree with this. That's fine. I've spent a long time looking into it. Just hear me out. If the idea is that we are evil to our core, right? We sit down to write, are we going to trust what's coming up from us, if we're taught that our souls are evil and it's only the Spirit riding herd on the soul, subjugating it, okay? We are not going to be, what do we define as soul? We call it mind, will, and emotions, right? And now we're saying the Spirit's got to sit on top of what? Our minds? I mean, what am I not supposed to think? It's going to sit on top of our emotions. I'm not supposed to feel, right? It's going to sit on top of my will. I don't have a free will. I'm not going to decide things. Can you see how this kind of falls apart? Now, apply this to creativity, all right? It's 3 a.m. I always go back to 3 a.m. A A lot of things don't happen well at midnight, but usually by 3 a.m. things have resolved themselves. So you sit down and you're going to write. You want to write something, anything. Maybe you want to write fiction, maybe you want to write nonfiction, okay? But you're going to start to put something down, and you're going to get an idea. Oh, you know what? This kind of goes with this, and this kind of goes with that. And you begin to follow the trail, even if you're describing, I keep going back to this, but even as you're describing nonfiction, you know, what happened to Joseph? What happened in the vision? What happened here? What happened there? There is no end to the creativity that can be used to bring that experience forward to a reader, all right? It's how well you can craft it so that it just ripens in multiple dimensions in the imagination of the reader. That's your goal. You're not communicating words, thoughts, ideas, even emotions. You want to convey an experience, okay? The words should disappear, and your reader should be in the moment that you're describing. I would say that is a goal. Now, as this happens, if you think that your battle from within is somehow between good and evil, then you're going to go, oh, where is this coming from? And you're going to doubt yourself, okay? And you may not write it. Oh, what if somebody reads this? Oh, what if this is weak? What if this is coming from the fallen part of me? What if this is what? And you begin to second guess. And I'm not saying people can't write crap. I've proven it many times. I'm saying don't let bad theology stop you from responding to the Spirit of God in a way that you are unaccustomed to, okay? There is no you except you. You hear me? And so whatever God does through you, with you, in concert with you, is going to be unique. You are a unique creation. Be it. And don't let fear stop you. Do we have sin? Sure we have sin. We do have God. But the fear of the inherent nature kills creativity more than anything else. I'll take you one more place, and then we'll maybe lighten up a bit. I think it's Deuteronomy 31. I always get my numbers mixed up. I'm a retired engineer. You'd think I'd know numbers. But for Deuteronomy, right? God is introducing himself. He's establishing this new relationship through Moses with the children of Israel. And he spends about 4 chapters just reading them the riot act. You know, if you listen to me, bam, 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 yeah, oh, yeah. Your kids will all grow up and be Republicans, and, you know, your wife will cook you a nice dinner, your crops will grow, life is good, you know. And if you don't listen to me, you know, vandals will run off with your family and your crops will fail and, you know, bad stuff, you know. And then he sums it up, and I love this. He says, I've set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Choose life and live. And I've always thought, you know, what didn't he say there? And what he didn't say is choose right and wrong. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a right or wrong. I'm saying right and wrong, that spectrum is not the goal, okay? Life and death, that's the spectrum that we are to judge on. Okay? What is life to you might kill them. What's life to them might kill you. Where is the Spirit of God leading you? Not as evaluated by someone else's pre-established spectrum. That works for them. Life and death is a subset. It's something you use on a toddler. It's, Sally, it's wrong to hit the cat with the orange. Billy, how nice. You helped Grandma up and back into the iron lung machine. Good Billy, okay. That's what we deal with toddlers. He was talking to toddlers, but he took it further. He honors us with maturity. Know where you are in that spectrum. Are we progressing toward life, or are we progressing towards death? I've heard a better translation when he told Adam and Eve, "In the day you eat that fruit, you will die." Obviously, they didn't die. And then people go, "Oh, well, they died spiritually." Well, they didn't. How do I know? Because God continued to talk to them. He even talked to the world's first murderer. And then I believe it's chapter 4 somewhere, Eve says, "I've had a child with the help of the Lord." Okay? Here's God, man. I mean, I've had 5 kids, so I think I know what I'm talking about. Well, she had them. I just told her what to do. But that is an extremely vulnerable place, isn't it, ladies? Those of you who have replicated the DNA. God was there with Eve. You get that picture? This stuff about he turns his face from sin, he can't face sin. Yeah, well, he did. It's not true. Why does that matter to a writer? Because you're going to put stuff down and you're going to wonder, how is this going? Okay? Is this bearing fruit for life, or is it going to bear fruit for death? The wages of sin is death. And sometimes you won't know that right away. You will be exploring uncharted territory. If you're not, why are you doing it? Okay? I got a Xerox machine. I'll reproduce War and Peace for the next 10 million copies and nobody has to write anything. No. I want to hear your War and Peace. Maybe you'll call it Peace and War. It's the story of my marriage. No, that's a joke. I am. If you find yourself at the bottom of a hole, stop digging, yeah. It is the mature believer. It is the mature writer who will suspend judgment long enough to let the manifestation of the energy flowing within you manifest in the written word, okay? And at the end of the day, the evaluation of our work can't be done black and white. It's not good, bad. It's not Sally hit the cat with the orange. Poor cat. That doesn't work. Okay, breathe deep. What do you want to tell them? It's going to manifest over time. It's going to require, am I moving toward life? Am I moving towards death? How do I know I'm moving towards life? Well, what do we know? Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Am I getting freer? Have you ever had a friend who gets caught up in some aberrant theology, comes back and said, oh, this is so great. A cult, maybe. And when I say theology, it doesn't have to be Christian, just some sort of supernatural. And within a year, their husband leaves them and they're bankrupt. And I mean, it's like, are you sure about this? Because as it manifests in your life, things are going south, right? Okay, that's the point. That's what I want to tell you. To write well is to take a chance, is to live in chance. What Clay was saying earlier, it is living on the edge. It really is. And what you will find is as you're writing on that edge, the edge, you're extending the edge. You know what I mean? It's like the, who was it? The Wile E. Coyote running from a train or something, and it's thrown down track as he goes. I want to encourage you. I want you to embrace that. I want you to embrace the uncertainty that departing from a black and white mentality causes, okay? You need to be in that uncertain realm. A high tolerance for ambiguity. It's where you belong if you're creative. Now, do creative people get in trouble? All the time. All the time. Friends, prayer. You will find your navigational buoys. But don't start out being afraid to make a mistake. Don't. And I mean, the other thing is, I mean, what happens if you get something wrong? Maybe, what happens? Well, is the world going to come to an end? Is the world really riding on your shoulders? Or are you having fun? Okay? Go have some fun. You know, have a ball, scarecrow. Okay. There's one more thing to that. But I think I'm going to stop right there. Leave it. How am I doing? How is this resonating with you guys? Ma'am? Yes, exactly. I mean, God gave us his Spirit for a reason. If life was just a black and white checklist, yes, no, yeah, we wouldn't need the Spirit of God, okay? It is a matter of maturity. A while back, I had a great idea for a book. Actually, a friend of mine gave it to me. And he is a kid who struggles. I say kid, he's about 40. They're all kids now. About 40 years old. We work together. He's a great handyman. It's Jim, I got a great idea for a book. Now, I'm going to tell you the idea for the book, but I want your pencils down because when you hear it, you're going to want to throw them at me. And this bulletproof vest is only good for about 5 number 2 pencils, and then you'll get through. He says, he's not a Christian. He's a good kid. Jesus up in heaven. And God says, all right, it's time to do the rapture. And but Jesus has always had something on his wish list, his bucket list. He's always wanted to do stand-up comedy. So he makes a deal with God, says, give me 6 months to go down, and I want to do stand-up comedy. And so in my mind, I took him to San Francisco because I used to live there, and I know the city well. And then he works his way through the open mics, and then he transforms. And a lot happens, and whenever I think of that plot, there's a song by Elton John. I don't know the title, but it's Sons of Bankers, Sons of Lawyers. I can't say it without crying. They turn around and see the morning for the night. It's people in a city. Mona Lisas and Manhattans, sons of bankers, sons of lawyers, turn around and say good morning to the night. For unless they see the sky, and they can't, and that is why, they know not whether it's dark outside or light, okay? I saw that every morning. I got off a subway, burst onto Market Street, saw the bankers, saw the lawyers, saw the homeless people, saw the ladies of the night, saw whatever, and I've always had a heart for them. But every time I tried to write that story, it's like something bad happened. I would get tired, I'd go lie down, take a nap, and I'd have the most horrific nightmare. And in the nightmare, I was somewhere else, and I was in a room, and all these people wanted to do bad things to me. I said, you know what, God? I'm probably following some sort of spirituality that ain't quite, and I backed off, okay? The navigational buoys, all right? So that's what I'm talking about, all right? So think about your theology. We accept things because leaders tell us, but I want you to think. I want you to ask yourself, where is this leading me? What is this doing to me? The first one being, again, the nature of man, the true nature of man. Are we born evil and sinful, or are we born good and we acquire sin as we live? All right. In Romans 5, it says, one man's sin came into the world. Okay? When Augustine read that, he thought it meant sin came into human beings. And it changes everything. It changes our perspective of who we are and changes our trust factor in our creative process. The second one, the idea is, does God control everything? You know, years ago there was a band called Caedmon's Call. I loved them. And there's a line in there about God knows everything, and he's singing it. I'll spare you that. But even the coffee that I spilled on my shirt today, God knew that was going to happen from the beginning of time. And that is so absurd. It's not scriptural. I would take you to Abraham being told to sacrifice Isaac. Most theologians will speculate at that point that Isaac had to be a teenager because that's the only reason Abraham would have agreed. But Isaac is tied up on the altar, and Abraham is like, well, boy, his mom's not going to like this. And God says, stop. And then God says, now I know that you will not withhold anything from me, not even your son. Now, true or false? The God who says, now I know, is also the God who a minute before didn't know. God didn't know, according to Scripture. Let it sink in. Why is that important? Okay. Now, that's a whole nother subject. We're talking about writing and writers and trusting your creative flow. Because so many writers have told me, well, I sit down, I empty my mind, I empty my soul, and I'm sorry I'm doing a female accent. I could do a guy accent. But I've been doing one since I stood up, so I want to get my vocal cords. But I just want to be an empty conduit. I want nothing of myself to stand in the way of Jesus. I just want Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. That's all I want. That's all I want. And I go, no, that's not all Jesus wants, okay? He created you. He wants you. So the idea that, God, what words do you want? Sally stood alone on the precipice of the volcano. Okay, is that what you want, God? Don't write like that, okay? I would encourage you to accept the Spirit of God as a muse. Now, I know the word muse comes from the Greeks. I'm not arguing for the theology of the Greeks. I'm saying man in general is open to the spiritual, okay? We all know that. And some is good, some not so good, all right? I would encourage you to accept the Spirit of God moving with your spiritual energy and creating what only you can create. Think about the seed of God coming into Mary, and there was the Son of God. I want you to think about the Spirit of God moving on you and take a shot at it. It's not going to be perfect. There is no such thing as making mistakes, okay? This isn't, true, false, and check the boxes and all of that. Just let it flow. Have fun. Even if you're writing nonfiction, have fun. Truman Capote wrote In Cold Blood. It's a story of, I think it happened in the 50s, Kansas City farm family. Bunch of bad guys rolled up. Basically, home invasion, leaving out all the gory details. They killed them. They finally got the bad guys. He was sent by a magazine to write it in detail, just chunk, 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 right? But he didn't do that. He began to write the occurrence as if it was a novel. It was still true, okay? But he wrote it as with fictional elements, foreshadowing, character, dialogue, setting, okay? And he coined it creative nonfiction, see? So, and that's since blossomed. There's a lot of work in creative nonfiction. So when I say write creatively, again, I'm not talking fiction, nonfiction. Yeah? How are we doing? Who's got a question? Or Mark? Who's going to come up here and deliver me? Okay, good. So, ma'am, what's the question? What's here? Tell you what, I'll read it.
Well, there's two.
I got two questions. Let's cover them.
One is,
All right. Oh, that's David.
yeah, the two below that.
Oh, I've got one here.
There's two.
There's two? Where's the other one, Joe?
One, two.
That's David.
No. One.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, gotcha. All right, let's do that one first. Holy cow. Okay. All right, Mr. Watching Online who was saved at 42, I'll get back to you. I can't cover all that, but I will, okay? Okay, all right, got it. Number two, how did you become a ghostwriter? Is it a skill you can learn about, or is it about having writing experience? Well, yeah, it's kind of both. The way I did it, is I got tired of reading the crap that people were giving me. They made all kind of mistakes. They did it all wrong, and they listened to the wrong spirit. And so I would redo it. I would redo vast sections of it carefully, being sure I had acquired the author's voice. So I've learned to acquire the voice. When I wrote The Real Deal, I know Susan, you know, I don't exactly sound like Clay. I kind of come close, maybe.
You did such a good job.
I did such a good job. Okay, and that's his wife talking, yeah. But I acquired his voice, and part of that was listening. Again, let's go back to, it's not what they say, but why they say it, okay? The pursuit of why is a spiritual journey. If I listen to you long enough, I'm going to acquire your spirit. I don't mean I own your spirit. I don't mean it's like the natives thought, oh, take my picture, you've caught my soul. No, you begin to share in spiritual energy. That's just what humans are. I have a relative, shall we say, and when he comes and hangs out with me for a few weeks, he starts to think like me and sound like me. So then he starts to make sense. And then he goes back home, like if there's a relo, and he starts to sound like someone else he lives with, who doesn't sound like me, and I find it extremely annoying. It's like everything I say, like socialism and communism and all this kind of liberal gobbledygook. But that's what happens. So I became a ghostwriter in part by necessity. And then people began to come up to me and say, hey, you know, I've got this wisp of an idea. Or the other way it works, mostly in the Christian community, is these people will either preach or teach something, and then I take the audio file, and then I'll convert it to text. We get it transcribed, and then I build the text from there, okay? Which is rather challenging. Nothing is more boring than to read a transcript of someone speaking. You'd think it's exciting. I mean, preaching is a very hard thing to build any sort of writing from a book, let's say, because preaching is primarily emotive. Now, I know when I say emotion, some people will say, oh, no, that wasn't emotion, that was the Spirit of God. I'm free from emotion. I'm not a human. Yeah, I think you are. The Spirit's going to move, but it's going to, what is joy? It's an emotion, passion, anxiety, despair, exhilaration. These are emotions. All right, so the guy's preaching is like, yeah, we got to get him. We got to get him now. Stand up. We're going to go. All right, that's great preaching. That's lousy reading. Yeah, let's go. Stand up. We're going to get him now. Smack, smack, smack. Okay? So that doesn't work out really well, but if I think there's enough of a germ of an idea, then I'll go, hey, let's build this. Okay? And working for an author is a little like pitcher, first inning, throwing the ball and trying to figure out what the umpire's strike zone is. I mean, everyone says the strike zone is, this, I think it's between the waist and the collarbone. I'm not sure exactly, but it's prescribed. But the reality is every umpire is different. So every author is different. I got to figure out what their strike zone is. Let's see. How far can I mess with their theology, which, if you haven't guessed, I rather enjoy doing. and I had one, just the other day, I had a guy, and I really didn't mess with him all that bad. But he wasn't having any of it. And he said, just don't touch the text at all. Just, yes, sir. What can I say? Here I am, an undiscovered genius. All right. I think I answered that question. I would like to share, how are we doing, folks? We got any other questions, Jacqueline?
How did you get your foot in the door as a ghostwriter?
Oh, well, first of all, ghostwriter is just part of what I do. Essentially what I do, Linda Everly, Harold Everly's wife, calls me a book engineer. I'm a former engineer, retired, but I've been writing. I wrote even during my engineering career. I got started helping other people. That's still my motivation. They don't pay senior engineers in the dark. okay? I don't need this gig to survive, but I do need this gig to live. You understand? It connects me with people, and I can help them in a way that I think I'm uniquely gifted to do. It started with Harold Everly, and we went on an Africa trip together. I was just getting to know him, and the story's in the book. That's just in his foreword. But he was marking up a manuscript, and I just said, "Can I help you?" And for the next 4 weeks, Harold wrote at about a 4th grade level. He's the most brilliant theologian I know. But at that time, he should have just written with a crayon, It was like, Sally said. So I did a lot of work, and when he got back, when I gave him the manuscript before we separated at the airport, I figured that was the end of that friendship. No, it wasn't. We've written like 25 books. I say written. With Harold, I don't do as much writing, but I do used to do a lot of real heavy editing. Fundamentally, helping people. Yeah, and I worked through friends and then friends of friends and friends of friends' friends. Some people advertise, some people go on the internet, and I guess that works. I don't know. I've never had to advertise. These days, I tell God I'm tired and I don't want any more work, and then it'll double. So that's, yeah. The motivation is always, how can I help? How can I help you? And if I can't help you, I'll tell you. Okay? Yes, sir. I tell you what, give the nice man a microphone, Jacqueline. The tall, elegant man in the back with an air of mystery.
Talk louder. I would love for you to develop for us a little bit more of what you mean by creative flow. So go deep,
Okay.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
I want to hear what you think about what creative flow is.
I will give you an example. All right? All right, by the way, we're running up on about 45 minutes again. Anybody got to go? I'm not trying to get rid of you. I'm warning you, I could do this all day long until Vicki threw me out. All right, wake up, computer. You know what? I had this all printed out. All right, let's see here. And then we're going to get into story is everything. And then I think we'll be done. Okay. You know what, Jacqueline, I had all this. Give me a second. All right. Page 54. I started writing. You're going to see what happens, all right? You're going to see what happens, and then you're going to call the authorities and tell them to bring a straitjacket and lots of Valium. Spirit beings. This is under fiction or nonfiction. And the premise of the chapter is it doesn't matter, okay? We're pulling from the same universe. We are pulling from the same stuff, substance, spiritual energy. In John, it says, God is spirit, right? The interpretation, God is a spirit. The A is not there, okay? Which leads to a lot of errors in the theology. God is spirit. What does that mean? He's spiritual substance. He's spiritual stuff. This is God, okay? There's nothing you can imagine that doesn't exist somewhere, given the vastness of the universe, both physical and spiritual. You're not discovering you're not originating, you're discovering. You're creators with a small c, okay? Now, let's just go here. Spirit beings. Humans are spiritual beings, all of us, good and bad, Christian and non-Christian, zombies and zealots. We can no more divorce ourselves from the spiritual world than a fish can remove itself from water. Yet we pride ourselves in our independent thinking, our originality, our uniqueness, our otherworldliness. Indeed, many of us are hooked on that self-image, rebels with causes, just because. What we miss, however, is that the people are connected in ways we barely understand. We are not the islands of aloneness we imagine ourselves to be. We are not the emancipated outlaw rolling into town on a Harley and an attitude. Those who fancy themselves free thinkers, delivered from the shackles of convention, tradition, conformity, and obligation, are in fact connected to all of us, one to another, in ways they cannot fathom. Theirs is not a lifestyle of independence, but of ignorance. The key is perspective. How big is your world? Specifically, how big is your awareness of your world? Does a fish know it lives in water? Does it know water as distinct from other environments? Air, for one? Probably not. Although there will be that rare exception, that odd fish who errs on the high side and comes swimming furiously into the middle of the school, waving his fins and screaming, in bubbles of course, "You won't believe this, but I was transported to another realm. It really exists. I swallowed this worm, and suddenly I was elevated beyond water. And get this, we are not alone. I've seen it. It was warm and so lovely, it took my breath away. I saw a great light. It drew me closer. I never wanted to return. Suddenly, a voice shook my soul. 'Oh, hell, Clem, that ain't legal. Throw him back.' And just like that, I was back among the living. Now I know I was returned to life to spread this message. You have to listen to me. The other world, it's real. I tell you, we all go there eventually. No, don't swim away. You flying fish, you believe me, don't you? I know you do. I can see it in your eyes. Oh, won't someone believe me?" All right. Now, that's an example of, thank you very much, and now for my next number. So I was writing about spirit beings. I was writing about the connection of it all. And suddenly I used that line, does a fish realize different realms other than water? And that actually comes from a book called Where the Crawdads Sing. She had a line, the author had a line in there about the fish staring up, dead fish on there. I said, a fish staring at a world without water. And I love that line, if you know the book. And so then it just evolved. And then I had the vision of the fish and how it could be somewhat humorous and yet somewhat illuminating. And I went with it. Now, the Jim of 20 years ago might say, "Oh, don't make fun of people's near-death experiences. Don't make fun of the spiritual world. Don't make fun of eternal life." The Jim today says, "Go for it and, get me another beer." Which is not a good idea, actually. But we'll get into that. So does that sort of answer your question?
I love the setting in Wyoming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, was it Wyoming? How did you know it was?
Because they always throw the fish back.
Oh, do they? Okay, I didn't know that. All right, what other questions? Who's got a question here? Is there any interest in just the mechanics of how to produce a book? 'Cause I can cover that in about 10 minutes, but yes, ma'am. You're interested? The mechanics? A book about mechanics? Diesel truck mechanics, maybe? Uh-huh. Okay, anybody else?
Well, Clay said something that he gave a prophetic word to a lady, and there was a book in her, and then he also said she was a wordsmith. Is that like the creativeness? Like I feel like I'm drunk in the spirit, and instead of saying drunk, you might say I was transformed intoxicatingly and floated into another. I mean, is that the kind of wordsmith that he's talking about?
Bovine scat. Yes, exactly. There are. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, there are people who do that. Yes. In fact, I have an exercise here that we can explore that. Good wordsmiths bring out just enough to flesh it out. Bad wordsmiths think the more words the better, right? So if drunk in the spirit works in conjunction with the other words, you go for it. If it doesn't, if it needs to be brought out differently, a good wordsmith, it's not a matter of never use one word when three will do. It's not that exactly. But I will look for things like, it was very cold. Well, no, it was frigid, I was so angry with you. No, I was livid, you know. Things that I'm trying to think of all the ones I can't use. The word very is a giveaway, okay? It's a cheap modifier. Things, I don't know how well I've answered your question. The idea of a book in you, we're all adults here. We realize that we're all born with potential to make children, right? I am told by biologists that, when a woman is born, I guess when she matures, she has all the eggs in her that she'll always have with life. Okay, she has the potential to bring forth life. Every one of us in here has a book in us, a story in us, right? Very few will ever come forth. Now, I'm not calling that a tragedy. I don't think God calls that a tragedy. It's a question of where are we going to direct our time and attention and our effort, okay? I'll speak for me just as an example, but I watch these front row guys, I think like they do. I feel like they do. I don't do what they do. And in part of me, I've always wanted to. I hang out with Harold Everly, who's been all over the world. I haven't been all over the world. I haven't spoken to large crowds. I haven't done a lot of things that my heart yearns to do. Because when I go to God and I say, I feel this way, he says, do this. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah? That's my gig, And I probably wouldn't be very good at all of this anyway. But I share it. So, you have a book in you. Where's God leading you from big picture? Okay? Your writing will only be as good as you are. What do I mean by good as you are? As authentic as you are. Your writing should not be used to advance a false front. You cannot write from a broken or even corrupted position within, a condition that you need God to work on your ongoing redemption for. You can't do that in an attempt to be something else. Your writing is as good as you are. If I can get away with that generalization. I had a lady come to me once. I love this story. She came to me with a manuscript, what she called a manuscript, and said, I heard about you from so-and-so, or heard about you from so-and-so, and all this. Sometimes I feel like the common cold, But I can't get this loaded into KDP. Now, quick, back to mechanics. Kindle Direct Publishing is Amazon's company that facilitates self-publishing. All right, just leave it at that for now. So if you're going to self-publish a book, I self-publish. You go through something like Kindle Direct Publishing or somebody else like Ingram's. I said, I can't get it. It keeps rejecting because the file I keep sending. I said, okay, send me the file. I look at the file, and what she's written, what she's publishing is about 63,000 words of very dense journal entries. Like Dear Diary, blah, blah. And it's all on the subject of the death of her granddaughter. So this is a woman in her early 60s, and her granddaughter died, killed by a habitual drunk driver who happened to get off on a technicality, and this woman's life is, HE double hockey sticks, okay? And I know two things right away. One is she's not done grieving, far from it. And number two is nobody's going to read this crap. They're just not. If you're writing journal entries, keep writing, but know that you're writing for an audience of one, okay? Nothing wrong with that at all. But don't think, remember, the world is not obligated to read what you're writing. In fact, they are disinclined to read what you are writing because everyone's busy. Everyone's got Netflix and YouTube and TikTok. I hope you don't have TikTok. I bet you do. I'm sure we all do. Everybody's got everything else but a book to read, The art of putting something dry between your hands and finding the right light and shutting everybody up around you and then absorbing what's on these pages is a failing art, okay? So I could see right away she had a long way to go. And we worked on it together. And I'm no shrink. I don't even want to be. But by the time, just by drawing out her story, she worked through her healing. And so for the 6-month period that we worked together, when we finished, she was in great shape. I'm not saying she's perfect today, but we ended the story with, get through this. She entered the church. She took communion. She surrendered her granddaughter. And then the last line, it was finished. Yeah, just felt great. So anyway, writing. Keep writing. I mean, write from a broken place. But that's fine. I want to go back to vulnerability for just a second. Ma'am?
Don't bleed all over your readers.
Well, that'll come out in the second or the third edit. But when you start, be honest, okay? I work for a lot of ministry people, and a lot of ministry people are used to coming up here, right? And they'll say, the word of the Lord is this. I saw that. We got it. And I'm not making fun of it at all. Besides, I'm not lightning proof. But they're used to giving you what God gave them, and then we work toward that. But if they sit down to write that, I find that an ineffective way to communicate. Why do I? Because it is not the answer that will carry the day. I mean, I'm going to read a section in here in just a second that illustrates that. But what conveys power is not the answer you have acquired. It's the journey you took to get to the answer. When you write, somehow, some way, it needs to come from that sourdough starter within you. You need to take a chunk of that, and that's your life experience, okay? That's what communicates to people. I'll share this with you, if I may. It might take me about 7 minutes to read this, and I'm very time conscious, but I think it'll illustrate it. You ready? Everybody good? Anybody need to get up and call the broker and dump all your shares of Intel? And okay. All right, this is called Wilbur. This is out of the book. A boy named Wilbur is born to religious parents. Right away, you know he's destined for a life of struggle. His parents named him Wilbur. Anybody Wilbur? I hope not. No Wilbur. Okay, good. Wilbur grows up in a starchily conservative home. At 18, when most kids are declaring their emancipation from all things civil and obedient because they're 18 and they know what they want, Wilbur enrolls in his denomination's seminary. He feels a call on his life to be in ministry. Funny how that call sounds a lot like his mother and father. Regardless, Wilbur applies himself, makes many sacrifices, and graduates with honors. He's appointed a pastorate in a church and sets out about to right the ways of the wayward faithful. He intends to blaze a path to heaven and lead this flock, drive it if necessary, from the morass of sin to the heavenly glory through the strident application of doctrine, for God's sake. Issued to him by the seminary is a pretty and capable bride. Lois is a perfect pastor's wife. She plays piano and sings and teaches children church. Her life verse is, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands. Life is good for Wilbur, sort of. Wilbur struggles to connect with his congregation, a collection of hardworking folk and wandering souls, many of whom were carrying a union card before Wilbur could talk. Nevertheless, he's the seminary graduate, not them. And if he needs validation of this fact, he can go home and ask Lois, who feels it's her job to agree with everything her spiritual leader says. In time, the children come, Molly, Polly, and their little brother, Jolly. They haven't gone to seminary. Their life verses are not, children, obey your parents, more like, life's a beach. Meanwhile, resentment is growing in the church. The congregants are real people with real needs, yet Wilbur feels it's his job to get the humanity out of them and the godly into them. He rams home sermon after sermon in the belief that, quote, when we replace our thoughts with God's thoughts, he's not sure about the rest. It's something like, then we stop thinking and start obeying. That's it. It's all about obedience, which is what he demands at home. And while his children obey his law, he misses the tears on their cheeks as they turn away and silently march in the direction he commands. One night, a church meeting is held and Wilbur is shown the door. He's devastated. Rather than comply, he demands that they obey God. His denomination hears the will of the people, however, and they transfer him to another church in another region. Lois takes the news stiffly. She has started reading the Feminist Manifesto and hides her copy in the bathroom cabinet next to the cleaning supplies. Meanwhile, Molly and Polly are plotting their own escapes just as soon as Molly gets her license. Jolly is still trying to figure out multiplication. Wilbur feels like a stranger in his home and orders more righteousness. The new church greets Wilbur warmly. The last pastor absconded with the church organ and the lady who played it. Wilbur assures the leadership that his family is a tight ship that rivals even the Titanic. Damn the icebergs, full speed ahead. History isn't Wilbur's strong suit. It takes a couple years, but the church is ready to tar and feather Wilbur. They even offer him the new organ if he'll just leave. At home, Molly finally moves out and takes up with friends across town. They spend their nights cruising coffee shops and getting tattoos. Daytime is for sleeping and working on her tell-all book, Confessions of a Preacher Kid by P.K. Molly. Her sister Polly soon joins them and finds work as a dishwasher in a dive bar. The pay is crummy, but she gets to eat from the dirty plates. Just as things can't get any worse, Jolly enrolls in engineering school. Wilbur nearly dies of shame. With his family going down in flames, Wilbur demands to know why Lois has failed as a mother. She responds with a slip of paper. It's her new apartment. She refuses to say if she's living alone. Wilbur can send the support check there. Wilbur is broken. With nothing more to drive him but the lack of resolve to die, he slowly climbs the cold mountain of truth. In the beginning, each step is the dull realization of how he failed God as he understands him. It's not until much later, as icy winds blow into his face, that he discovers his failures as a husband, a father, and a spiritual leader. Each footfall, each blister, each ache screams at him. Finally reaching the snow-drenched summit, clarity comes under a blue sky. He hears a new voice, soft and gentle. It says, it's love. It's all about love. Wilbur rejoices. With the ambition of a newly minted pastor, he drives a stake into the ground and declares, thus far and no more. He has arrived at truth, or so he thinks. Wilbur comes down from the mountain. He goes back to his congregation and he tells them he's a new man. He now has the truth. I've been to the mountaintop and God said, it's love, Wilbur. It's all about love. And he intends to give it to him, ready or not. That's nice, they say, but we've already given your office to the new pastor. Here's your organ. Wilbur has to find a new home. With time on his hands, he sets about to write his book. It's the tome that will set all to right, the summation of everything he's learned in life. He calls it, it's love. It's all about love. What I learned so you don't have to. Of course, he needs an editor, but Molly won't return his calls, so he emails a friend who puts him on to me. And I say, send me the manuscript. And this is what I get. Page 1, it's love. Page 2, it's all about love. Page 3, now you know. Page 4, repeat pages 1, 2, and 3. Page 5, about the author. Wilbur is the father of 3. He lives atop a mountain where he writes and plays the organ. Well, good for Wilbur. But unless his readership understands the 50-year journey that he took to reach that pinnacle, they aren't going to appreciate anything he has to say. Apparently, he hasn't learned much. It's as if God sent a spiritual helicopter to drop him atop a peak of revelation for 15 minutes to download it all to him. Yet that's not how it happened. That's not how life works, and we all know it. Well, most of us. We require a journey. Why? Because the journey qualifies us to receive the answer. Only when the sweat is on our brow and our feet are white with frostbite can we appreciate what's being offered to us. Indeed, it is everything we've been asking for, but we're not qualified to receive. Readers need to know of Wilbur's struggles because they are on their own journeys. Marriages struggle, children grow alienated, churches toss us, dogs bite us. Life can be tough. Wilbur gradually learns to love as he is transformed by love. He realizes that while the journey up the mountain is revelatory, the journey down the mountain is practical. Eventually, Wilbur meets Miriam. She's a widow from Wisconsin. She has the heart of a saint and the temper of a she-bear. She doesn't take any of Wilbur's crap. With his attempts at submissive headship in tatters, Wilbur realizes that mutual submission brings a much more satisfying love life. His adult kids become more willing to talk as he learns to listen. He eventually gets a master's degree in counseling, and his new church welcomes him with open arms. He's relieved to see that they only have a piano. He stops calling out people for their shortcomings and starts asking, "How can I help you?" That's the story Wilbur needs to write. It's his story. It's authentic. It's vulnerable. Oh, and it's love. It's all about love. Okay? That's the idea, and that's what I try to instill. Okay? All right. Now, maybe I should quit, and you guys can all go get a break. Do we have any questions?
A lot of people are asking about mechanics.
Mechanics. All right. Do you want me to cover mechanics? Okay. All right. Let's see here. What is the timing for a 57 Chevy 4-barrel carburetor? Chevy didn't make a 4-barrel. Okay. So I want you to think of it in 4 parts. And we're going to be talking book writing. The book that I wrote about writing covers a lot. I would encourage you to write in any form you want to. Let's just get that out of the way. You were talking. My man in the middle here was talking about lesson plans, and I'm not so sure what my friend here is writing, but I'm sure write poetry, write anything, write what's write what appeals to you. Write. I like. Okay, I'm getting off. Mechanics. So we're going to have book writing. We're going to have key components. We're going to have a manuscript, right? And we'll talk about how to develop a manuscript. We're going to have a cover, which is very important. Cover has to be done professionally. We live in an age called the age of self-publishing, which means you don't have to go to a commercial publisher and get accepted by them to get a book published. So the good news is anyone can publish a book. Huh? The bad news, anyone can publish a book. There is a lot of garbage out there. All right. But, of course, you call me or somebody, I'm not looking for work, if you want to know the truth. But, I'll talk to you. Don't let me run you off. But this isn't a sales pitch. But you come to somebody who looks like me, and so we get you a cover. The cover has to be done well. It needs to be professional. And remember, the cover is not about you, the author. The cover is about your reader, okay? When I develop a book, when I edit a book, I'm not editing for the author. I'm editing for the author's reader. So an author will often say to me, well, it doesn't sound like me, and I bite my tongue so I don't say, yeah, I know that's the point, you know. But what I have learned is the art of making it still sound like them. But I've had the best that I hear, and it's usually 80% of the time, is, yeah, that does sound like me, but a better me. All right. So we're talking about a well-developed manuscript where maybe we've written a first draft, which is, you know, you just cut a vein and bleed all over it, you know. I was born at a very early age, the son of itinerant farmers. We were poor, but we were proud, and we hauled that Pennsylvania, we hauled that cotton and that corn and everything up and down the road, and doesn't have any. Okay, you get it all out there, and then maybe you go to an editor, and the editor begins to clean everything up. Okay, you're going to pull out the extraneous matter and all of that, and you finally have a good finished manuscript. Okay. And then the other part of the manuscript, now that you have the text, which is in pretty good shape, you have to do a layout, or have to get a layout done. What is the layout? The layout is when you put the text in book format. So the margins fit. Your standard size book is 6 by 9. That's what this is. There's really two sizes, either 6 by 9 or 5.5 by 8.5. I prefer 6 by 9. That's pretty much standard. Yeah, the Align for Conquest book is a 6 by 9. So you have to know how to fit it in there and get the margins right, get the page numbers right, get the headings right. The arrangement of your paragraphs is very, very important. Okay, I get these manuscripts where the paragraph goes on for 3 pages. All right. And what you have to remember is people don't read, they scan, okay? So they're going to hit maybe in fact, they look for the big words. They look for the key words. You'll labor over one sentence for 15 minutes. Wait a minute. Did her dress sway in the wind, or did it sway in the breeze? And your reader doesn't care. Your reader is not reading. Your reader is scanning, you know? The reader is not eating the pumpkin pie. Your reader is walking past the open window going, like Mom used to make, and they're going to keep going, okay? So when your reader is looking at your text, your reader is going, my gosh, it's spring, they must be planting, you know? So how did I get onto that? So even the art of breaking up into paragraphs is part of proper formatting, okay? It's in the exact format that your printing program will feed to the printing presses. So rough draft manuscript, edited manuscript, then a manuscript that's had a layout done. Layout done. And then we're going to load this into a program, a software program called Kindle Direct Publishing. It's not really a program, it's a company, and you go to kdp.com. Okay, KindleDirectPublishing.com. And there's about 3 pages of metadata that you have to fill out. You know, the title, subtitle, the author's key search words. They make it very, very easy for you. This is an Amazon company. Amazon is extremely customer focused, you know, because they're focused on the bottom line. And I think they provide an excellent service. So you're going to load your manuscript. You're going to load your cover file, okay? Now, covers can be done in a variety of ways. Probably the 2 leading ways to either format a manuscript and or create a cover. The formatting of the manuscript, you can do it in Word, Microsoft Word if you want. You can do it in Apple, what's that communist one? Apple, I think they call it Pages. I don't work with Apple. My parents were married. But WordWorks, or the other big one is called InDesign. Okay, InDesign is by Adobe, and that's, I worked with it for years, and my therapist said, look, give it up or get another therapist, and I like my therapist, so. It's a very complex program it's immensely powerful. It's what they use to develop magazines, full color, you know, really fancy stuff where, you know, the text follows the shape of the girl on the surfboard or something, I don't know. It's very powerful, but in my world, it's an answer looking for a problem. Yeah, it's an answer looking for a question. So you can learn to lay it. When you lay out a manuscript in Word, you use the word feature called styles, S-T-Y-L-E-S. Get on Facebook and get some, not Facebook, get on YouTube. There's a lot of great tutorials on YouTube about how to lay out a book, okay, using Microsoft Word styles. So then you load your manuscript, you load your cover, and then KDP will do an eval. And they evaluate it a couple of different ways. First thing, they just want to make sure that you've done your margins right so that in the actual act of binding your book, okay, it doesn't pinch the words. Now, I don't want to bust on my man here, but like if you look at this, it's actually not done very well. We're all the way up to the very top. The gutter, what's called the gutter, is not very generous. It's not an excellent layout at all. It's a little too close to the edge here, things like that, okay? So there's a skill level of that. There's an art to that, okay? But you load all that, and then KDP comes back, and the KDP says, congratulations, you are now a published author. Bring us your firstborn child and the keys to your F-250 and a spare set of mud flaps. And what happens is now you are in KDP's system, and three things happen. At least three, and then I'll think of another one. One is the book is listed on Amazon, right? Now, I want to issue a caveat here. Listing a book on Amazon is extremely easy, and not only is it not a guarantee that your book is going to sell, it is pretty much a guarantee that no one on the face of the earth from this time forward in the canon of the entire civilization will ever hear of your book, okay? You have just, you have tossed a piece of straw into a shaker barn and never to be seen again. That's how it works. And I'll tell you why in a second here. But anyway, it's listed on Amazon for whatever, they give you a price range, and then you pick the price from there, all right? But the second thing that happens is author copies are available to you, okay? So for a normal 6x9 book, let's say 175, 200 pages, retail could be anywhere from $15 to $25, okay, just based on current prices. But you as an author can get copies of that book for probably $4 to $5, okay? And that is I don't know why KDP does that. I'm going to call it generous, but calling any capitalist company generous, I'm missing something here. Okay? So, but there you go. You get your book for $5, all right? But market price, again, would be anywhere from 15 to 25. But you can sell it, and that's what people do. So, like when Clay and Susan travel, when I travel, like I've got these listed at okay, I'm going to give away my profit motive. I got these listed for $10. They cost me about $7 to have printed. So I'm still giving you a very good price, but here's the deal. I got to sell 20 of these before I can get my ticket back home. If I sell 30, then I can get her ticket too. So let's see what we can do. So that's really, most people who self-publish distribute their books through their personal and professional platforms, okay? Clay and Susan are widely known. Harold Everly, widely known. Most of the front row here, widely known. That's where the books sell, okay? There are companies that will promise you marketing miracles, and the only miracle is lightening your bank account. Now, there's a little more to it. I'm glossing it over very quickly, but that's roughly the mechanics. And then if I could just back up, the work that goes into a well-developed manuscript can be daunting. You could work on a manuscript for months or years, all right? It's how good do you want to make it? How well do you want to do it? And that you have to think about who your audience is. Who am I writing for? What education level? And don't say everybody. Don't, the young people, and then, of course, there's the old people. Of course, there's the middle-aged people, so I guess it's everybody, and I just want to buy the world of Coke. Well, no, go get your Coke and leave me your manuscript, and we got to narrow this down, okay? So a well-developed manuscript takes a lot of time, a lot of attention, and it involves other people, all right? Editing your own work, a little like judging your daughter at a beauty contest. You know, like, that one, yes, she's the most beautiful girl in the world, and she should be. Because if she isn't, there's something wrong. But this is not always the most beautiful manuscript in the world till three other people who probably don't even like you go through it, and they can be brutally honest. I mean, there's an art to it, right? You know, the art is telling someone to go to heck in such a way that they actually look forward to the trip, all right? So the art of working with people and helping them understand why you're doing what you're doing. Look for good editing. Look for good feedback. Never trust the feedback you get from anyone who loves you. Okay? There's 2 L words, love and lie. Okay? They're synonymous. They're not going to tell you the truth because they got to live with you. All right. Is that enough of the mechanics, or are there more give me mechanics questions? I'm seeing yawns. Yes, Count Tiwick. I saw you go up. What? Wait, let's get the Magitronic microphone here. Hold it to your temple and just think of it, and I'll pick it up. Yes, I see a little girl in a blue dress, and her bicycle's broken, and it's right. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you might have addressed this already, but what about the use of programs like Grammarly or other technology enhancing writing aids?
And actually, where you're getting to, too, you didn't ask about AI. Yeah, AI. AI is the bomb, man. I haven't figured out AI in terms of our relationship together. We're still working through our feelings, trying to think what it's wild. I have asked AI deep theological questions that only I knew the answer to, of course, and it blew me away. After Google's nefarious start with AI, where everything was politically correct and then it was historically incorrect and all the other, I had my doubts, but like ChatGPT, one of my sons, all 3 of my sons are computer experts. They're smart. I don't know where they got it, but so I talked to it, and it blows me away. Whether it could have written the real deal, probably. I don't know. But that's not what you asked. As far as editing programs, Grammarly is good. You can't totally rely on it. Grammarly is also, there's a objective part of Grammarly, and then there's a subjective part of Grammarly, and then there is a woke element of Grammarly. I'm not trying to be funny. And so, yeah, sure. In fact, as an aside, like the Chinese, who are just, as I read it, leaps and bounds beyond anyone else in the world with AI, have got a huge problem with AI, and that is that AI tends to tell the truth, and Chinese are very good, communist Chinese are known for suppressing large parts of the truth and rewriting, any communist country. Okay. I like Grammarly. I use it at the end. We use it at the end. I'll usually run a manual, if I really got to scrub it, I'll run it through 3 different people. Even your best proofers are going to miss stuff, I'll tell you a trick about proofing. If you're looking for a proofer or you want to be a proofer, don't tell me your qualification is you like to read. Because what happens is the proofer gets into the story. And now he or she, it's usually a she, but it's like judging your daughter at birth. She's reading the story for the sake of the story. And the reason I know this happens is because the first chapter, they find all kind of mistakes, second chapter, fewer, and then third. By the 4th chapter, I don't see a thing. And, I get to the end and I've misspelled God and everything else. And they just, they go, oh, it was great. And then they want $1,200. So to proof, you don't read it. You have to stare at it. Men who stare at goats. Good question. Good. Anything else? Who else?
I just wanted to mention.
Wait, let me get you here.
For mechanics, that KDP has templates also that you can put in.
Cover.
Specifically.
Yeah.
For the content, you can pull it with words or without words.
Yep.
You can all the way out.
Yep. Yeah, KDP makes it easy. If they didn't make it easy, they would not be in business. That is the genius of a free market system. Who else? How are we doing? Yes, ma'am, here. See, I'm just getting warmed up, and you guys are like, someone shoot him. You don't have to kill him, just wound him. He'll stomp around, make a bloody circle, and we'll come get him about 6 o'clock. Go ahead.
With my idea, it's a little bit out of my skill set because it's a genre that I'm not used to writing.
Okay.
Because it would fall in the supernatural fantasy genre thing. So
Yeah.
though I'm writing it, I feel like I'm still struggling with fleshing out the concept of, what do you suggest for people who may have an idea or a concept, but they may not feel comfortable writing in that genre? Even though I feel like that's the genre it needs to be in.
Why do you choose the genre because you like it?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a love for it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then because even with my concept, I'm writing for young people
Yep.
who are very drawn to the supernatural
Yeah, yeah,
and that young adult,
yeah.
because a lot of them are pulled towards the occult anyways.
yeah,
And I feel like there needs to be more.
Taylor Swift, it's her. No, I'll go ahead.
Well, I know what you're talking about with her, but
Spangly.
I just feel like there needs to be some things offered to talk about the kingdom
Yeah,
in ways
yeah.
that, like Narnia, like C.S. Lewis would be a perfect
Yeah, yeah.
example who was able to
And we could
capture
argue
that.
about Harry Potter, but then I would be tarred and feathered. Well, here's what I would suggest, just on our 30-second relationship here, we've met so much. Finish it. Don't edit as you write. Finish your story, okay? Beginning to end. Think about a wheel. A wheel starts here, goes around, round. If a wheel stops here, obviously it's no good, right? If it stops here, it's no good. Here's the problem. If it stops here, it's no good. It's when the wheel closes in on itself that we have something that is self-perpetuating, okay? You need to finish your story. Get the plot out. Get a rough idea who your characters are. Get the nuance. Get the backstory. Get the arc. The hero's journey. If you don't know what that is, read up on. You do know. Okay, yeah. So build it out as something like that, and the nuance, the genre can be worked into that. But see if you even have to what extent do you have a complete story here, if that makes sense.
Are you asking me now?
Yeah, no, I'm saying this will answer your question. You could probably conceive of the story, but get to the end, see how that goes for you. You may get like halfway through and go, this isn't gonna work, talking chickens and, eggs that explode and the moon turns blood red and then, who knows, and then the next thing you know, Trump's in the White House and all that. It may collapse of its own preponderance, right? So I would do the story first and then fine tune it for your genre.
Okay.
Yeah? And don't be afraid, remember this is your first draft, don't be afraid to be dumb. I really mean it. Don't edit as you go. If you know you need to get from here to here and you say, that wasn't the most artful arc, don't worry about the artful arcs right now. Just get from here to here and see when you get to the end, then you can make your evaluation. So many people, their steps are faltering because they keep stopping. They're trying to make the perfect first draft. There is no such thing. Yeah?
All right, thank you.
Who else? How we doing?
Question, how important are endorsements and
How important are endorsements and how many? It depends. If you're Greg Hood, I hope you're listening. Endorsements are somewhat important. When people read endorsements, they don't read what's written. They read who endorsed it, Oh, wow, look at that, Billy Graham. Wow, Mother Teresa. Wow, that's awesome, So go get them. But the other thing is then I use endorsements. I send everybody who endorses my book, this one, I send them a hardcover, signed it, hey, we'll always have Paris, love Jim. And then I ask them to go to Amazon and do a review. Yeah, so I'm kind of bribing them. So semi-important. I think what's more important is asking your friends to review it, if they will. But also find people who are disinclined to like you. Yeah, that's, what else? Okay, hold on, we'll get the, whoop, there you go. I get it, you're stealing microphones here. Thank you, my friend. Okay. Hey, good looking. I'll be back for you later.
Thank you. My question is, you talked about once you've uploaded and you can get your hard copy book for less than selling. What if part of your market is like digital downloads? Is there a benefit with that so you can have both?
What do you mean by digital? You mean like an ebook?
Yeah, like an ebook.
Oh, yeah. Now, go ahead.
Can you manage the pricing for that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, when we're done here, I'll show you a typical page for KDP. But it's the last. You have about 5 pages of metadata. fill this in, fill that in. And you get to the pricing, and they'll give you a range. There's a range for the ebook, there's a range for the paperback, there's a range for the hardcover. And then you can pick it somewhere in there, okay? So obviously, Adam Smith, Wealth of the Nations, supply versus demand curve. The lower your price, probably the more you'll sell, except there's who's the chick that was trading stock and got, Martha Stewart found that when she was selling her pies for $5, nobody bought them. When she made them $25, there was a line out the door. So there's the cool factor. Anyway,
Thank you.
if I answered. How we doing? We doing okay? All right. I guess I'm done. And anybody want to come up and talk to me? I probably got about another 15 minutes in my tank. But I want to thank you all for coming. If anybody would like a copy of the book, and $10 is insurmountable right now, I'd be glad to give you one. I kid you not. So come on up and talk to me, and we'll make...
Skip the coffee and back.
Yeah, skip the coffee, buy the book.
Can we all give Jim a hand for doing this workshop? Thank you so much.
Happy to do it. Thank you very much.
I want to encourage everyone to sow a seed into what you took away from today, but also to just we want to be a blessing to Jim and his wife. And I know Jim doesn't want it; he's not going to ask for it, but we want to sow in because we believe in sowing in. And so, if you would, you can go to claynash.org and sow online. You can write a check or fill out an offering envelope and bring it up to here to these baskets up front before you leave.
We take gold bullion, whatever.
But Jim, how about you just pray a prayer real quick, like an impartation, like releasing the book that's in them for strategy. I think you are. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
There, you should be
Yeah,
good.
sure.
And for those online as well, we have an online audience, a few dozen people joining us, and so
Father, I want to thank you for these stalwart souls that have listened to my bullcrap for these last 2 hours. And I want to speak to you, and I want to call forth your name to be glorified for eternity, that we reside not in the judgment of men, nor in of our limited scope, but that we embrace your boundless love from now and forevermore, that there is nothing that can come between us, nothing can stand against us, nothing can defy the armies of the Lord who are enlisted within your eternal arms that embrace us all. May everything we do, may all our writing bear the signature of Almighty God to your undying glory. You, our Creator, we, creation, as we endeavor to create as you created, to be as honest and as straightforward and as workable as we possibly can before you and your mercy, your grace, and your timeless love. God bless us all. In Jesus' name. Amen.